Sounds good.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. We're just got a few more minutes. Everyone is getting ready to roll in. Thank you for joining us on a very rainy, coldish afternoon. I'm here on campus right now. It's just raining, so it'll be fine when I drive home later. It'll just be tomorrow that gets a little more questionable. So, but I appreciate y'all coming in and joining us. We'll get a few more minutes to get a few more people to log in before we get started. Um, Most of you don't know I'm Beth Fleener. I am in the Center for Teaching and Learning. I do half my time here, and then the other half with graduate student programming in the graduate school. I also have a faculty appointment in the College of Ed, where I specialize in teaching math methods courses. And so I've been doing this session for many, many years here in our center. With me today is the interim director of CERTL is Peggy, and she just won the greatest honor of having UT system recognition to be a Distinguished Academy teacher. So I'm really excited for her on that one.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, so we'll get started in a few minutes. Just a couple of us. We necessarily have a big group today. I mean, I understand it is the weather. People are focusing on getting their everything settled to hunker down this weekend, and so I understand that. So we're going to get started, and we're going to have a mix of some faculty, some staff, and some grad students. If you are faculty participating in this, you will earn a certificate when you are done, and you'll be certified as a peer observer. If you are a graduate student or staff who does some sort of peer observation type of related things, you will not earn the certificate, but you will just get a lot of information from this that will help you in the process of peer observation. Only the faculty earn the certificate part of this program, but we want you to hear and you be part of this. I know my grad students, I have a few of my grad students here today, and so they will be joining us because they're doing a peer observation as part of their teaching certificate program, and so they'll be joining us today on this. Um, Welcome. Yes, we will be utilizing the chat a little bit. I know that we are all just hanging out. Hang on, I got to cough in a second. And we're just going to have a little fun time today. I know the weather is a little questionable, but we're going to make it work. Lethea, I saw you. How are you doing? You can say hi. You have your hand up. Are you just testing all your things? So just make sure if you have any questions, we will be using the chat. Myself and Peggy and Nikisha will be here. We'll be helping you through this process, and we're gonna have fun today. I actually was at a session yesterday with my Certal network, and when the Microsoft Office thing went down, and our presenter couldn't get in, and it was just a fun time, and we just made it work. We just kind of pivoted and made it an open forum because the presenter couldn't get in because of the Microsoft crashing. So that was just so much fun. Yeah. So yeah, raise your hand. Tell me what your question is before we get started. While we wait for a few more minutes before everyone comes in. Uh, Alethea, is that how you say?
Oh,
On
Nikisha, we can allow unmuting. Yeah,
yes, we can. Yeah,
we will too.
and their cameras if you want to. Yes, yeah. This was set up as a webinar, so it's a standard. Um, all cameras and all mics are off, so we can enable that now. Stuff like that, so we can get that because we're relatively a smaller group today, so I think we can make it work.
Mhm.
So thank you for letting us know on that. Yes, when it's set up as a webinar, it's just a standard. Everyone's muted. Everyone is cameras are shut off. So yeah, we'll get that set up. All right. Hi everyone. Welcome. Welcome. We will get started. Peggy, will you like to share the
Yeah,
slides? Okay.
definitely. Yeah. Before I share the slides, everyone, if you can go ahead and type a greeting in the chat, let us know what your role is at UTA and what you hope to learn today. So that's a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
title slash department, if you want to add that, and then what you hope to learn today are the two
Yeah.
main things. And then
Yeah. If
anything
you
else, mhm,
Yeah, faculty, if you're a
we'll give
grad
you two
student, if
minutes
you're
for that.
staff, whatever it is, just kind of generalize that so we can kind of get a picture of who's all here with us today. And
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be great. And we're gonna have fun today. So
And we'll go through and allow you to talk on the mic and camera if you want, but we're totally okay with you leaving your camera off. We will have some interaction in the chat. So don't step away for too long if you have to step away, and so on. But go ahead and type that intro opening in the chat. And then Beth, if you want to comment on any of those.
Yeah, some of these are my grad students.
Oh, good. Well, welcome.
Yay, yay. I'm so excited to see you guys. Welcome. Glad you're here to learn. Assistant professors, I see a lot of professors, great. So remember, as I'll get the words out today, guys, it's Friday. So professor, as a faculty member, you will get a certificate that you'll be able to put this in your digital measures profile and things in that. Grad students and staff, not necessarily because you're already in a program or something in that nature, and you're learning this as a workshop or a training and things like that. So we have all of that. We have a great group of people today.
Yeah, this is great.
I love that. I love having a mix of both faculty and staff and students and grad students because it helps everyone see what's going on. Hi, Adam. I know you, so that's great.
Okay. Can you see everything, Beth?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, all right. So let me check the chat. And again, welcome. We are recording. Let's check and see. Yeah, we have a mixed group of people in terms of, title, subject, across disciplines. Yeah, and just stay tuned to the chat. We are both checking it. Nikisha is on here too. If you want to unmute, say hi, Nikisha. I think most of you know her, either behind the scenes or at our events. And so she'll be here too, kind of helping with the chat. Yes, the recording will be shared with those who attended this session. Great question. And we'll share the slides in a follow-up email later today. Okay, yeah, properly observe colleagues, etc. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started while you're still talking. Tiny bit of multitasking. Let me just see, there's one more question. How can I do my ACP while doing my master's? I want to learn how to peer observe in my department. I'll let Dr. Fleener answer that one.
Yes, so this is a process. As we get through the process, you can see what good practices is to observe. You are not just observing, as a checklist. And so as we go through this, hopefully this will answer your question. And then when we're all done, if not, then I'll answer some more. Okay. I don't want to spoilers. I don't want to give any spoilers. Okay.
Yeah.
So as you go through, and then maybe it'll help you get your answer before I have to answer your question. Okay. Good job. Thank you, Latina. I want to make sure I have Latina. All right, let's get started, Peggy.
Yeah, so we did our welcome and introductions. I'm putting resources in the chat. We're putting resources. There was two main ones. If you didn't have the chance to look at it, it's okay. If you didn't have the chance to look at the discussion questions, that's okay too. We're going to mainly be doing chat window interactions. So we'll say, look at the chat. You can reply in the chat. If you click the three dots, you can do the thumbs up, +1. All that is great interaction. So we're looking for just, what are your thoughts? Because this is really a reflective process for you as the observer. And so we'll do a lot of reflection today. So background on peer observation, what is the kind of legal/policy? It comes from UT system, etc. So we'll dig into the policy just a little bit for the groundwork, because it sets the parameters of what it is, how it works, and who can observe who. So then we'll jump into the process, which Dr. Fleener will largely go over, and then we'll talk about how to finalize that process and what you submit for your digital measures dossier. And then some discussion, and we'll do discussion in just a minute. And then Nikisha will be your point of contact for getting the actual certificate. We also have a link on our website where we list peer observers. Okay, so I am going to talk briefly about the background on peer observation, and I'm also going to pull up the policy. So UT system requires faculty to have official peer reviews of teaching. It's a formative exercise. In other words, it's a process. It's not done at the end of the year as some kind of final culminating thing. It's basically done along the way, along your teaching journey. There are benchmarks and timelines for when you need to get this done, especially if you're on the tenure track or tenure line. And so we're mainly going to focus on the required peer review of teaching. These are people who have to get peer observed. However, all of this knowledge applies to any peer observation of teaching. sometimes people observe people to get a teaching award or to go up for a promotion outside of the scope of the formal review of teaching. So if you're in that category, all of this is still good knowledge for you. But as far as required peer review observation, this is just some of the parameters. So let me pull up, let's see, I think it is this document, and it's the second link in your chat. So give me a second. Need to move this doohickey and go here into UTA policies and procedures. Can you all see that?
Yes, Peggy, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. It's a little small, so you may want to grab that link and pull it up on your own, especially if you have another monitor. It's something you can look at later. I'm just going to go over a few things, and then Beth will also chime in. So it just talks about what effective teaching is. We'll discuss that in just a second. It says even the best faculty members can benefit from constructive feedback. So this is not a gotcha thing. And so I think that's important to tell the person you're observing is that I'm here to help support your teaching. Again, it's not a gotcha, I'm going to catch you doing something bad or doing poorly at teaching or something you didn't realize you were doing. But it's for feedback. So it's a best practice for professional development. And so just keep that in mind, and it kind of lowers the nerves for everybody, I think. And so here are just some fundamentals. Each department or college shall conduct peer reviews. It has a timeline. And so the review is for those seeking promotion to full should be conducted no earlier than 2 years prior to the date on which they submit their dossier. So that one is way ahead, etc. And it can be a lecture, it can be face-to-face, it can be hybrid, it can be online. So the modality is up to the faculty member getting observed. And so we'll talk about all modalities today. And so that's just kind of who does it. And then if you go on frequency, assistant professors shall be observed at least once before their 3rd year review and at least once more before considering for tenure. So that's twice. And kind of spread apart. And so just assistant professors have a longer timeline. You want to add anything, Beth?
Yeah, so in the chat right now, there's like, okay, so this is the formal HOP policy for our tenure track faculty.
Yes.
Each department and college created their own guidelines for APT type of faculty, and most APT faculty submit one annually. So there's that. So always check with your department guidelines, especially if you're an APT faculty. And then I had the question, if you have a like a GTA or someone, a student that, that's maybe part of your class or not a professor of record, but, it's kind of like a teaching assistant that's part of you. Yes, you can use that. I have my students, my grad students can use this experience as part of their certificate program that they earn. And then as the faculty, you observe them and you help them along the way and give them some feedback. Again, this is not the gotcha. You're in trouble. You're just pointing out some things that, like, you realize you do this and paying attention. Okay. Because teaching is a lifelong journey. I have been, and Peggy, we've been in education for years, 20 plus years, both of us now, and we are still learning things. So it is not a one-time thing. You're constantly learning and evolving through the teaching, and you get feedback, especially if you're teaching something, maybe you're teaching something new and you want to get some feedback from a colleague about, okay, I'm trying this new thing or this new software, this new approach, and I just kind of want to get some feedback. That's a good way for them to come in and just kind of give you some feedback about something you're doing or what's going on. And we'll talk about all of those things. So, but for policy wise, check your department for APT and policy on that one. Most of them do submit an annual one. The tenure track faculty, there's guidelines. You have to submit it 2 years before you go up. So you'll submit one before you go up for your 3rd year. You'll definitely submit one going up for your 6th year, and then any year after, and repeating things like that. So that's formal policy from the system. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Where are we? Just some general, we'll just keep it real general at this level because you can read this policy on your own, but just some highlights. So you just need to do your peer observation in accordance with the policies. If your department has policies, some department don't have their own department specific policies. So then you just refer to the HOP policy for this. And you can always ask us questions too. If you, we're not policy makers, but we can help you interpret what the HOP policy says. So this is your go-to guide, is our UTA specific HOP policy. So we're going to go over this in more depth, but you have a pre-observation meeting, a peer observer report, and a post-observation meeting, and the deadlines for those are in here. And we'll go over this too. And they have a recommended timeline. It's not written in stone, but this is best practice, I would say. So no later than the third week of the semester, identify your peer observer. Honestly, I've done it in the middle of the semester or even at the end. So don't freak out if you don't officially follow this. This is, ideal optimization, best practice. But you need time to do this. And so, and then it just says no later than the 12th week. Again, sometimes in the real world, this doesn't always happen, but this is ideal. And then the main thing about this process is you need to get somebody to observe you that's at your rank or higher. Do you want to add anything to that, Beth?
Yes. And that's actually in the slides as we get through this.
Yeah.
But again, if you are a tenure track or tenure stream faculty, POP policy says that someone who observes you, because you have to submit this report into your dossier for tenure promotion, has to be of equal or higher rank. Okay, so if you're in a tenure track, you can have an associate observe you or a full observe you. So things like that. If you're an APT faculty, it doesn't matter. I can come and observe you. And so that's a little bit loose. Again, check your department guidelines on that one. There is no clear distinction. So you can have someone outside of your department of equal or higher rank observe you, which we kind of recommend sometimes, because if you have someone within your department, they could be, more focused on the content because they're familiar with it and missing the teaching part, versus someone maybe who's a little bit outside of your content area, because then they're focusing on the teaching piece and not getting hung up on all the field, because it's the same thing that you're teaching. So consider that as well. Yes, and that is true. An AP admin cannot observe a tenure track faculty. It has to be equal or higher rank. Okay.
That's the HOP.
That is a HOP policy. And so that's the HOP policy. And so I can observe. Now we have two processes. There's the formal and then we have an informal. And I have observed tenure track faculty as an informal process before they submit their formal dossier one. So we'll clarify those as we continue on. Okay.
Yeah. Or like if it were for a teaching award, sometimes people do that. That kind of thing. Informal, that doesn't really go anywhere paperwork wise, then then you can have anyone observe you. So okay. An assistant professor, I believe not, unless it's an informal, right?
Yeah, because these are APTs, so you have to check your guidelines with your department. Definitely check your guidelines with your department. Each department has its own criteria. An APT at any rank can observe any rank of APT. Some departments have kind of follow a similar model of the tenure track, that if you're an APT and you're trying to go up from an assistant AT to a, kind of rise up, then they try to have someone a little higher, things like that. Again, check your department on that one. That's very, I guess all I can say about that one. All right, Peggy, let's get some questions in. Let's go.
All righty. So let me ask before we jump into the reflection questions, has anyone done a peer observation, whether informal or formal? If you could type that in the chat or raise your hand at any time, and we will do the speaking. And Nikisha and I and Beth can enable your microphone if for some reason it's disabled. So has anyone done one? Just like do a thumbs up or type yes in the chat. You can use the tools you can use the react tool up on the top. Aaron or Adam, do you want to tell us about any of that, or how it went? Was it hard? Anything you want to share, or Lalitha, if you want to share, we'd love to hear, because Beth and I have done them. I've done many, and I've done many outside of my department to Banu's question. Anybody want to share tips, advice? Okay, none? No, that's okay. It's a Friday. So we'll keep moving. We did have some yeses though.
Okay.
Okay, Aaron says it was surprisingly helpful and not scary. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And Ji-Yoon says yes, I was observed when I was reviewed. Yeah, so more formal. Okay. So what is your understanding? You can type in the chat or raise your hand. We'd love to hear voices. what is your understanding of the formative process of peer observation as described in the materials? And if you didn't read them, we just did the bus tour of them with some highlights. But what do you think? The opposite of formative is summative. So summative would be like, this is, how you are at the end of your teaching journey, or the end of the year, or the end of the semester. What is your understanding of formative? And Beth, feel free to chime in too. Oh, thanks, Nikisha. Any thoughts on this? Because this is really crucial, and you might present this to the person you're observing. That this is formative. It means it's ongoing.
Yeah, because people are very familiar with summative, cumulative type of assessment type things, but formative. So yes, please, you have your hand up. If you can unmute yourself or type it in. Yeah.
Hello. Good
Hi, Lethea.
Hi.
Yeah.
It's Lolita, by the way.
Lolita.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So I'm a grad student in education, and so basically I have observed, I'm an elementary school teacher.
Okay.
And so I have observed like a classroom mapping, which is like seeing how students, go along and follow the instructions on what I put on the board, and like interactions that go around between the instructor and the students. And while I'm observing how they talk and communicate with each other, while asking questions and having any, analyzing the instructions and going around and seeing the atmosphere around their body language and the use of space. Yeah.
That's good. Thanks. Yeah, good. Classroom behavior. Beth, do you want to answer or respond to that, or answer any questions in the chat?
No, and I think that's going to continue on as we get through that. Remember, you are not if you're being observed, or if you're the observer, if you're observing someone, you are not judging their expertise. You are looking at the classroom space, the environment, how students are engaging, the interaction. You are really just pulling a lot of facts, and we're going to talk about that. You are the data collector in the moment. You are not using your assumptions or judgments and things like that. You are just writing the facts as you observe them. And so we definitely talk about that one as we continue on. And you bring those facts to who you observed and saying, this was what I saw, and things like that. Because you don't know, it's like a blind side. When I started teaching years and years ago, I have a tendency to talk fast. I'm from the East Coast, didn't realize that, or those or just some body language type of things. And if you don't know, you can't improve. And so that's where some things like that. So, all right.
Sounds good. Corey, I'm not sure about your specific situation. It may be because the peer observation formal process is really geared and targeted towards tenure line faculty. So I'm not sure why you got the feedback you did, but if you email us, we can help you figure that out outside of this session. So we've got more comments in the chat. The process made me more aware, more intentional. Yeah, like Beth said, sometimes we have blind spots. Good. Okay, I think we've got some good ideas here. We're going to jump into this other thing. I know this is a big conversation across the UT system, but what is excellence in teaching across modalities? So I know some of you teach, I've taught mainly online, some of you teach online, some of you teach on campus, some of you teach labs, or, we have faculty teaching in a studio classes, and et cetera. And so what are your thoughts on excellence in teaching? There are no wrong answers, but what do you think? Let's see. Lalita, go ahead.
Or is your hand up from before and you just forgot?
Oh, might be in hand.
That's okay.
So Corey says engagement.
Sorry, by the way.
That's okay.
That's okay. We do it too. Anybody, or Dr. Fleener, if you want to chime in too. Oh, wait, Lori, go ahead.
Yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think when it comes to online teaching, it's a little different, because you really need to be organized so that the students feel more confident going into the course. And then there's a difference between asynchronous and synchronous online. So when it comes to synchronous online courses, there are ways to create student engagement. And I think sometimes faculty aren't aware of that or aware of how they can use these different options. So like, for example, you all started out by sharing how we can create engagement by using the emojis or the raise hand features and things of that sort. And we can do those kinds of things. So I think in person or synchronous online, you can create student engagement. So I feel like that's a really important part of teaching excellence. In addition to showing that you are prepared, you are organized and ready to lead your group of students.
Oh, those are so good. Yeah, definitely. And it's all intentional, I think. So good. Okay, we've got a few more. Eye contact, engagement, make it fun, make it relevant. Don't be afraid to be creative, try new technologies, organized. And then Adam, delivering consistent, high quality learning outcomes. Yeah. Dr. Fleener, you want to comment on anything?
Absolutely. And is it going to be like that all the time? No. And you got to be able to, okay, because when you're teaching and sometimes you're trying to get everything and maybe you're trying something new or technology crashes or something, even though you've best intentions, it's okay. And so those are some learning things that you learned from that. And so you definitely want to bring the highest level of quality when you come to the lesson, like Adam was saying. You want to be relevant. You want to engage the students. As long as you do that and be authentic in the learning, it's going to be great. They're going to do that, and regardless of modality. So whether it's a face-to-face or the online, understand that technology happens, some crashes, some things don't work, and it's okay. And you pivot and you adjust. That's the reflective part of being a teacher and trying something new. And so
yeah, definitely. Okay, this is a big conversation. Yeah, this is a big topic, but we're moving towards excellent. Like nobody is excellent all the time, and so. But it's something to keep in mind, like how can teaching be improved as continuous improvement? So one more comment, acknowledging students' learning, ensuring that all students get to learn using many different techniques. Yeah, varied instruction is something I've always been taught. You're not just doing the same lecture style, even during the same teaching session, that you vary your instruction. So okay, anything else? I think we'll move on so we can jump into the heart of our workshop. What strengths do you bring? We'll just touch on this one and skip the last question since we did it already. But if you just, even if it's a word or a phrase, that kind of thing, maybe you've been trained to take notes as a researcher. That's a skill that you can actually bring in. So I was trained as a qualitative researcher. That's a skill set. And so I bring that into that aspect of teaching. So go ahead and put a word or phrase. Are you attentive? Are you observant? Do you know detail? Are you good at reading people's level of engagement? Do you have a background in education? That kind of thing. Being reflective.
Are you open-minded?
Yeah, that's good.
Open-minded, because just because you're observing someone who may be doing something a little different, then that's not your norm of teaching, doesn't mean what they're doing is wrong. It's just something different. And so are you open-minded to different approaches and different styles of teaching and different things like that? So that's actually what thinks about that. So
and think of this whole thing as a type of coaching, even if you're a peer, because you might say, like, have you noticed, or did you notice that you did such and so? And I think having been observed, this is my last comment, and then I'll turn it over to Beth. I think having been observed gives you empathy into feeling like, oh my gosh, what if they say something like you're terrible, or and so it gives you empathy into that the whole process. So I think being observed by a peer helps that kind of, if the other person is stressed out about it. Practical. Okay, good ideas. Okay, Beth, I'll turn it over to you, and any thoughts on these, and then we'll just jump in.
Absolutely. That is a great segue, because when you're observed or being the observed, it is a relationship. So you have to have that really trusting relationship between the two of you, that you can be receptive to feedback. So if you're being observed and they offer you feedback, you need to have that some humility and vulnerability on your part to receive that, because you want to look at the bigger picture and you want to grow as a teacher or instructor, and you be willing to see that. And just like if you were the observer, you need to be able to give the feedback, but in a way that's not critical and harsh and judgmental and things in that nature. So it is a very a trusting relationship that you need to have developed and things in that process. So consider that as well, and very confidential. So what you see, it's confidential. You don't, it's just between the two of you. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So let's go to, basically, this is a recap of what the policy said again. For if you're a tenure track or tenure track faculty, it's part of your formal process. You'll need to do one within your by your third year when you submit your dossier. Most faculty, or the early new career faculty, submit it in their second year. And then you go up again when you go up for your 6th year. And then if you're going up for associate to full, you'll have to do that and things. If you're tenured faculty, now you already got your tenure, you'll have to do it 2 years before going up for full, like we just said. And then if you're an APT or academic professional track faculty, you have to look at your department guidelines for that one. Each department has its own, and so we didn't have enough space to put on there. So look at your guidelines. Some departments you have to do one every year. And so again, you just look at your guidelines for when that process happens. Okay. And so what is the process? Peggy, at the next slide.
Yeah.
Okay. So the process is this is best practices. Okay. The best practices is the faculty member needing to observe. So if you need to be observed, whatever rank you are, you need to reach out to somebody. It's not their job. They can't read your mind. If you need to be observed, maybe you're trying something new or something, you reach out to someone either on the list, we have that, and then you request and schedule something. You're taking the initiative because you need to get that done. And then so you'll schedule a pre-meeting with them where you go over, and we'll go over all those little nuances of that. Then you'll have the scheduled observation when they're coming, and if it's online or in person, we'll talk through all those. And then you'll have to do a post meeting, because that post reflection is that key part. That's where you grow and learn. And then when all that is done, then the person to observe, like if I was being observed, then I'd have to write a report or something, and that's what I submit in for my professional growth. I won't see those documents. Well, no one will see those documents. It's just me and the observer. It's personal and that stuff. All right. So here's the process. We talked about this. Must hold or equal or higher rank. We talked about that one. You can have tenure faculty observe APT faculty, depending on your department, but you can't have APT observing tenure track faculty for the formal part. Now, the informal is very different. The policy does not say they have to be a certified observer, but it is best practices on this one. So we should invite a certified, and we have a list on our website of everyone who's gone through this training for the past, 3-4 years, and all the departments. You just reach out to one of them. And then at the very end of the process, like I said, the observation and the post are documents that do not get shared. It's only between you and the observer. Then you submit that report form, and that's what goes in. So all the information stays confidential between the two of you. And so that's really what you submit, is the report that this happened, and this is a reflective piece on that. And so that's what that's. So some of the conversations for the pre-meeting. So here are some of the topics. So when you reach out and you get a person, and you schedule a pre-meeting, this can be done through Teams, this can be done in person, and it can be done in email. I've seen it done in email. And so you're asking the conversation about what to be observed. And so you're getting the person who is observing you some context, because remember, they're just walking into a moment of time in your teaching. If they're coming in to teach you, maybe see something in like week 8 of your class, they don't know what happened between all of that time. So you're giving them context so they're not walking in blindsided. So maybe you're giving them the course, the topic that we're going to be on. Maybe the level, is it a freshman 1000? It is a senior level class. Is it considered a core? Is it an elective? Things like that. The number of students maybe in the class, is you talking a large lecture size? Are you just talking small, 20 people? How the class is kind of arranged, because we know that we have classrooms on campus that are really weird. And then, the way it is and how things are working. Do you have to work around a column or a pillar, or the tables don't move? Things and like that. Is it a lab? Is it a studio? Are they observing you teaching a lab? So things like that. And then even if you're doing it online, we do have a form that helps you with that process if you're doing online type of things. So giving all the context of that. And then your typical teaching procedures. So if they're going to come in, what are they going to come into? Are they going to see potentially they're going to be doing a group work? Are you going to be giving labs? They're going to do interactive? Is it they're working on a project? What are they doing? So you're walking in, you're not walking in kind of blind. So you're kind of walking in, okay, I got to understand where we are when I step into this space. And this meeting is usually pretty brief. It's about 15 minutes. It's not that hard. There is the one simple form, and we will go over all of those. And so it's just kind of giving them context so they walk right in. So that's really what the pre-meeting is done. Again, usually can be done in Teams, in person, even emails. So then as the observer, so if I'm being observed, I'm going to ask them, or I'm observing someone, you're going to ask them, what should I focus on? Okay, so I have a teaching background. You can't see everything. So what do you need help with? What do you need to focus on? Do you want me to look at how you're asking the students questions? Are you looking at how you are engaging with the students? Are you looking at how do you need help navigating this weird classroom space? Are you looking at maybe you're trying a new practice or implementing a new strategy or teaching strategy and you need some feedback on how to do that? Whatever it is that helps me as the observer know what I should be looking for. And then the final thing is always to ask for a copy of the syllabus or something in that nature so you can kind of give a look or maybe a worksheet or whatever you're doing that day, maybe the lecture slides, things like that. That just helps me fill in the picture. And so those are just really good pre-observation meetings that help me be observer to give you the best feedback available. Okay. All right. So when we actually get to the...
We have a few questions.
Oh, yeah.
Chat.
Okay, we'll go in. Yeah, what's going on? What do we got? Where are we? APT faculty. Which ones are we, Peggy?
About can you have more than one post meeting? And I said not typically. And then if reviewing a few areas, could there be more than one observation? I just said usually not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a snapshot.
It is a snapshot. Depending on the area, I mean, if I have experience, so I usually can pick up 2, if not 3 areas because I've had the experience. But sometimes it's just someone in the observer may only have the ability to keep an eye on 1 or 2 of those and things like that. But you can have as many as you want. You know, you don't want to inconvenience your observer, but if you want to do one every semester or things like that, you work together and things like that. So there's no limit of how many you need and things like that. All right, so peer observation process. So during this pre-meeting is when you schedule when to come to my class. Okay, so during this pre-meeting, you let me know that I need you to come in on Tuesdays at 12 o'clock, or I need the classes at, you know, Mondays. So you schedule that time where they can come in. If it's a 3-hour class, you do not have to sit through the 3 hours. Usually you can get the information you need in the 45 minute of a class period. You can get that information that you're looking for. If it's an online part, there's some strategies on that we'll talk about that. You need to make sure that you invite them in as your shadow instructor so they can go in and look at that and look at how your course is laid out. But during the pre-observation is when you schedule when they need to come to the observation. Usually you do your pre-observation 3 or 4, 5 days before you actually come observe. So that's usually where it is. Peggy, next slide. Where are we? Peggy, get the next slide for me. Thank you.
I'm here. Yeah, sorry, my mouse. I have my monitor set up in a weird way. Okay.
So here's the pre-observation form. It is really simple. All these forms are available on the website. They are a Word document, or they're also a PDF fillable. These are yours between the 2 of you. You don't need to share these out. It's just basically as a document for your records to keep everything safe. So you just type in the information of the faculty and the rank, the course that they're going to be observing, the type of course, did you have your meeting, the day I had my meeting, the time I had it, and then you just, did you have the course syllabus? What's the outcomes am I looking for? What's the focus area? And then you just kind of sign off. And it's just basically, it's a documentation that just kind of keeps you safe and make sure I had that. To help reduce anxiety, yes, this is very good, Adam. That's a good question. So this pre-meeting is actually really good to help with that. So you can have those conversations about that anxiety, you know, your nervousness, get that relationship, Yes, and we're a
Yeah.
guide to establish a rubric content. Yes, feedback, what you want, you need out. And so that kind of helps get that out of the way. So that's what this pre-meeting, that's why it's important to have a pre-meeting before your observation, because it gets rid of all of those things. And so that's the form. It's really simple. It really is clear. It says these it's yours. It should not be included in any dossier promotion because it doesn't need to. It's just for your records that this happened. Okay. So that's what the form is. It is available on the website, our website, Faculty Affairs website. Oh, we did note that on your syllabus, when you do get that syllabus, it's important that you look at the student learning outcomes in the syllabus. And if you don't have the student learning outcomes, make sure the student learning outcomes have this higher level of outcome, and they'll have those higher level action verbs and condition is measuring, because when you're observing the class, does that course align in with those outcomes? It doesn't mean all of them, but it's somehow connected into that. So that helps with those questions of, why do I need to learn this? How is this beneficial? It goes back to what I think Erin mentioned. Is it relevant to my learning this course? So make sure those student learning outcomes on the course meet effective student outcomes. And if they don't, we have a training here in CERTL that we can provide the person you're observing on how that. You cannot measure understand. You cannot measure students are going to understand as. You can't measure that. But you say things students are going to summarize, students are going to explain, students are going to compare and contrast. Those things you can observe in a classroom. You can't observe understand. Does that make sense? So Peggy, you came back on. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I popped back on just real quick. So another thing is if it's online, especially if it's asynchronous, but even if it's face-to-face, sometimes there's some great resources in the Canvas shell. And I like to look holistically. So it helps you to go and find the syllabus. It helps you to find things that they uploaded before the class you're observing, if it's synchronous or face-to-face. But to me, getting access to the Canvas shell, it can be really short-lived. Like you only are added as a shadow instructor for a week or two. But you're able to go in there and look and see what kind of organization is in there. And that helps. Even if you're observing them, you can say, resources were provided before the lecture in Canvas and so on. It just, I don't know. What do you think, Beth? It's crucial for online, but it can be helpful for face-to-face. But any thoughts on that?
Yeah. No, it's great. It goes back to that organization. There's an organization in the learning process and how students are matriculating through your course and they're learning and how the content and learning builds as you continue to matriculate. So yes. All right. So now is the observation practice. Okay. So here's the observation. You're getting ready to come in. This is all about best practices, and your job as the observer is the data collector. No judgment. You're not, analyzing. You're not even speaking up in class. You're not, when they're observing, you're not going to say, hey, by the way, no, you don't do that. You are basically a fly on the wall. You're just taking notes. And so that's all you're doing, just what you see. And so you should record on paper. You can either type this on your hand notes, what you observed, and making a running notes list. And I usually have a notepad that I note, and then on the side, kind of draw a line, and then when it happened, what time, and things like that. And I note, and this happened, this happened, and just keep running and just running notes, because that's all you're doing is you're observing and you're collecting data. And indicate times when things happen. And so, for example, here are some how I would have this on my running notes. Okay, so when did the class start? Okay, was the class topic introduced? All right. How and did the faculty transition maybe to group activities or things like that? Were there questions, or how the questions were worded? If you asked the student a question, sometimes I would write the question that they asked the student. And were the questions like a one-word yes or no type of responses, or did the questions encourage them to ask the why or the bigger picture type of questions? Did they just call out one student all the time on the front of the room and completely ignore the back of the room? How did the students respond, type of thing? Was the length of a lecture? At times, I understand. I mean, you're talking for 45 minutes. What's going on with that? Are you engaging the students that whole time? Are you giving them time to process? Were there examples given, them relevant pieces that they can connect to their learning? All of those things during this observation. And then what were you doing in the class? And were they engaged? Now, there's times that bigger lecture halls, I kind of sit back in the corner and I'm watching. I mean, I've seen students just playing on their laptops. I've seen students fall asleep and things happen. I mean, that's what's happening. So what are you doing? What are you observing for them to engage with you? I mean, if you're only talking to the front row, then obviously the people in the back row are not engaged. So what do you do? So what are some suggestions? And so you're just writing all these things down so that they can help them in that process, okay? And so one way to do this is a diagram. Again, you're a data collector. You draw out the classroom, and I'll show you an example of this in a second. You draw out the classroom, where the lectern is, where the board is, how the chairs and tables are set up. There's something weird like the column or the windows or something like that. You maybe put an X wherever the faculty members. Now, during COVID, faculty were pretty much locked behind the screens, but you don't have to be. You can move around the class space, especially if you're face-to-face. Where do they look? Who are they calling on? And which students ask questions and things like that. So if you're observing an online synchronous class, write the names of students who are called on and ask questions. Asynchronous is a little bit different, so we have a form for that. Okay, so here's a picture of a diagram. And so I want you to take a look at this, and I want to ask you, Peggy, next slide. I want you to ask, what do you see in this diagram? Okay, so this is observer, came in and drew this diagram. Give you a second. Take a look. Remember, the X's are where the faculty stood. The arrows are where they looked. S's were where students were sitting. And then the A's or little notes where faculty asked the students to answer a question. And I'll give you a second to process, and I want you to throw something in the chat. What are you seeing? What's going on here? Okay, so I've got some comments coming in. Yeah, so the faculty was very heavily right there with the laptop in front of the board and the screen. They really just talked to those 2-3 tables that are right there in front of them. The students on the diagonal corner didn't get, they weren't asking questions, they weren't participating, they were disengaged. So if you're going to observe this, you can see that the back side of the room wasn't participating, they weren't engaged, and so they weren't learning. So part of the reflection piece or the post observation is we would give them advice, we would show them this, and they would realize, oh, I didn't realize that I'm missing the other half of the room. I know that with me, I actually have a presentation clicker, so I don't have to be locked behind the laptop screens, and I can move around the room. And so that's really helpful advice. And things like that. It can be very challenging when you have a class of 100, but it is possible. It is possible to move around the room. You just got to think outside the box and a little more creative. And so, yeah, so those students that are on the door side and in the back, they are just not engaged. And so are they learning? Are they getting the best experience out of the classroom that you can offer them? And so those are some things that you would give feedback. I know that when we did this a couple years ago, there was a comment on we as a CERTL, we do observations, and we did that, and someone gave an observation, one of our facilitators gave an observation, and they reported back that the faculty had no idea, completely no idea that they were missing the left side of the room or they were focused on the right side of the room. And they intentionally then made sure they either moved physically over to the other side of the room so they can engage the students and things like that. But that was part of their reflection process because they had no idea that they got so comfortable behind the lectern stand that they missed the other side of the room. And so that's what you do is you offer those feedbacks and things like that. So that's an example of drawing out what you see and what you hear, along with, your running notes of comments and things in that. And so there was that. Peggy, do you want to continue on before we move on to
I'll just chime in. I don't know if we mentioned this yet, but the fact, like Beth, to your point, that they weren't aware they weren't aware, they don't know what they don't know, kind of thing, because they're not in that space, and you are. One question you can ask in the pre-observation is, what would you like me to focus on? And they may have some sense of what they're not, not doing well or need help with, but they may not. So that in that pre-observation, when they say, I would like help with blah, blah, then this type of thing would be great if they say, I'm not sure if I'm being equitable or whatever. But yeah, that just made me think of that. Like sometimes they're aware of it, sometimes they're not. You can ask them, what would you like me to notice? You may notice things they're not even aware of. So that's a good point, Beth.
Yeah. And so things in that nature. So that's really what the observation is. Again, you're just taking notes in the whole process of that. All right. So we are going to give you our next screen here is we're going to give you time to do that. So I gave you a drawing. And we're going to give you a quick little, it's a 45-second YouTube video of a classroom scene. And I want you to think about, what would you note? How would you note that? What would you say? Comments and things like that. So Peggy, I think you're getting the little YouTube video up. And so what are you noticing about the teacher and the student during this scene? Okay. She dropped it here in chat if we can't get it to share here. But it's really just a 45-second clip if you want to watch this one. If we can do it here without our sound, because sometimes we have issues with, the sound coming through.
Okay.
But if you
I'm including sound.
Yeah.
The Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the Great Depression, passed the a tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which raised or lowered tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today, we have a similar debate over this. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve. Anyone know what this says? It says that at this point on the revenue curve, you will get exactly the same amount of revenue as at this point. This is very controversial. Anyone know what Vice President Bush called this in 1980? Anyone? Something DOO economics. Voodoo economics.
Okay.
Yes. So classic 80s. Okay, but it's a great scene. Anyone to give you a moment? What did you see? Okay, so if you were observing this professor and these are the students you saw, what did you see? Think about the learner's engagement. Obviously, there was no wait time. You would ask a question. What is the body language? What's his tone? Proximity, obviously, the classroom. I mean, so what are you seeing? Okay, so this is a great example of a potential observation. So I'll give you a second. What did you notice? I mean, where's your?
I have seen those. I have seen those things, sadly, in a university classroom.
Oh yes, oh yes. So have I. So have I. And I've seen all those student faces, and I'm sure you guys have all seen those student faces looking at you the whole time. No interaction, absolutely no enthusiasm. I mean, obviously he's very he knows his history. I mean, he knows it but wasn't very enthusiastic about it. Fast pace, absolutely. When you ask a student a question, you need to give the pause for them to process. Even though you think you gave them pause in your head, I gave them time. You gave them 4 seconds to process. You actually should be counting a little bit longer because they need the time to catch up to the question and then formulate their thoughts before they can respond. So you definitely need to give them that. It's called wait time. Body language. They're back to the class and they're writing and they're not engaging eye contact on that. Very monotone, absolutely on that one. Yes, fast, monotone. What else we said? He's talking to the board. Yes, Laura, I saw that one. Yes, so that's a movie from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's a very classic scene. There's quite a few other ones in that one, but it's not just this one. I'm sure we have other. If you even just watch some TV and cartoons or movies or television shows today, you can see other scenes in classroom engagement environments. I think Peggy and I were talking earlier in even the movie Harry Potter, when Snape comes into the classroom and he's going choo, 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 and all the blinds drop down, and then he's really firm and says page 34. And so is that a very good, what is some observations happening in that space? Okay, so it is all over. You just got to learn to just be more aware of things that happening in that space. All right. So when you do an observation, whether you're doing it online, whether it's a hybrid, synchronous, or face-to-face, whatever it is, positive teaching elements, you need to focus on the humanizing part of the instruction. Students' accessibility and accommodation in place. Okay, so make sure all students can engage and active or engage with the material. We had an observation one time of a lab, and we had a student with mobility issues, and they couldn't. The lab tables were too high for them, and they were in their wheelchair bound, and they couldn't. So they designated a table off to the side, then they weren't engaged with the rest of the group. And so it's like didn't feel like that. And so those are some accessibility and accommodation pieces. All students, remember, are you just like that picture we showed you, not the three in the front, are we getting all the students? Inclusive teaching and equitable evidence, we talked about that one. Presence, responsiveness to learning, so make sure you have a teacher presence, not the monotone, engaging, exciting, passionate about your subject matter. The course organization, we have talked about that one. A lot of you talked about divide the courses into modules or weeks that focus on a certain topic or concept, and as it builds each time. So remember, you're coming in to observe a snapshot on it. That's what that pre-observation is very important. The learning outcomes, the activities, the assessments, are they all aligned to what you need to do for the end result of the course or within the unit? So is it relevant, or is it just busy work? I mean, you got to understand that piece. And then innovation. Innovative design, are you using inquiry model? Are you motivational strategies, higher level thinking type of things? Are you doing experiential learning with in grades some things, some community things, some service learning pieces? Is it innovative tools and technology? I know that everyone's talking about AI. So are we doing things that incorporate that without compromising the critical thinking pieces? If you are trying to try a new practice, maybe you learned something new at a conference and you want to try it, and you want to get some observation from that, that's what that would be. I'm trying this new tool and try to figure that out. So this is all these kind of things you kind of focus on when you're observing. At no point to say judge the faculty you're observing. Judge their expertise and the knowledge. No, this is all pedagogy pieces. All right. Questions on that? Okay, so what does those forms look like? All right, Peggy, next slide. Okay, so there's two different forms. Again, where we find the other forms, we have an on-campus one. So if you're going to do the on-campus, or if you're going to do the online, they're designed a little different because the modality is a little different. But if you kind of look at it, they're kind of break into sections. Is the course delivery. So present the main ideas clearly and learner-centered to facilitate highlight. Did you observe that or you not? You may not observe it, and that's okay. It's not wrong, because it just might not happen in that class. Are you correct? So you just go through that, and then there's a space to the right, and you maybe write some things that really went well and some strengths. And then the same thing for the online part. Is it divided into sections, distinct modules? Is it organized, and all of those things, SLOs? Is it evident or not evident? Just because it's not evident or not applicable doesn't mean it might not be there. It's just that you did not observe it in that little window of time. Okay. So that's really what those forms are. Again, as you fill this out as the observer, you will give this form to the person you're observing. Okay. It is theirs to keep, and it's just something that you will work together through. It just basically records your records of your notes. If you did the diagram that we just showed with the arrows and the X's, you give them that. If you did anything else with a note taking, you give them all of those things. That's theirs to keep. It's their records. Okay, so let's kind of recap a little bit in the next slide. So observation, as the peer observer, document the main elements, content, class size, teaching, all of that. Capture more details in the teaching techniques, teacher-student interaction, make those running notes and those class diagrams. Again, nothing about content area. Complete this observation form that I just showed you. And then you will take all of that to your post meeting. And that gives us to the next thing. So your post meeting, usually when I do mine, I schedule the post meeting after this class. Obviously, if the class is a 3-hour class, I don't do it, I don't wait for 3 hours. Maybe I schedule it in the next day or two, but try not to go more than, 3 days past it, because you start forgetting some things. So after the whole observation process is done, then the final part of this is something called the post observation. Okay, Peggy, you guys want my slide, please? Yeah. I know we're working together. Okay, so the post observation take place as soon as possible. Again, usually after the class, if it's a 50-minute class, or later in the day, or no more than 3 days. Okay, indicate the discussion by asking the faculty what they thought of the lesson. Okay, ask the faculty where the class. So you observe it, you're not giving them the information. You ask them first. What do you think went well? What'd you like about the most? Things like that. You give them the space to talk. So now you are listening as the observer. You're hearing what they have to say. What went well? What's your strength? You usually know what didn't go well. Yeah, technology did not go well today, or maybe I wasn't prepared. I didn't realize this happened. I have observed. I'm a field observation person for the College of Ed. I had a fire drill going off during an observation. When we did that, they felt it didn't go well, but I said, you know what? You had the students line up orderly. We exit the classroom. So what they didn't think didn't go well actually went well, and so. Show them your design, your diagram, if you drew out the diagrams, some of your notes, and then ask for their feedback on the diagrams. Just like we showed you. What do you think happened in this picture? Just like I showed you earlier. What do you think? And have them go, there's a lot of talking up at the front, never left that front lectern area, never moved to the back. So they're already assimilating what's happening. Okay, you're not even having to tell them; they're starting to figure this out, and then you make suggestions. Okay, so how do you think we can get you out from that space to the back side of the room, or how can we get you to talk to the students on the other side of the room, and things like that. And they're going to come up with, maybe I'll bring a clicker, or maybe I'll move around the space a little bit more. What can we do? And then showing their running notes to capture the dialogue, things that they have said. Their monotone voice, or the fact that they didn't give wait time, and especially if you can get word-to-word suggestions of what they said, how can we have that? So if there are questions the students didn't respond well because you didn't give them enough time, or strategies on asking, instead of yes and no type of questions, maybe asking them the higher level questions and things like that. So you bring all of this information to this post meeting. Okay, so after the post meeting, okay, you got the next one.
Sorry, I'm having mouse problems. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. So you share it. Here's the report. Here's the form that we filled out. You discuss. You give them compliments on things that did really well, because most likely they're doing some really good things. And if you're observing, I know that when I'm observing, I was like, wow, I didn't realize they could do that. And I learned this new technology, or this new way to do things, and then I want to incorporate it in my class. So those are some really cool things. And you encourage reflection. And when they talk about strengths and weaknesses, I don't like the word weakness, because it's not a weakness. It's just an area that you don't have the experience in, and you just need to grow in that. And so things like that, like talking fast, like when I was a teacher, I was talking fast, or those ums and things like that. So those are little things that you can put in those notes. Make sure earlier we had the comment, keep it open, keep it comfortable, keep it easygoing, keep it relaxed. You are not judging them. You are here to support them and bring them to a level of excellence in their professional growth and teaching. That is your goal there as an observer, okay? And so there is also, again, another form, because you have to have documentation. We are in higher ed, we document everything. And so during this documentation process, again, you have that. And then, what was the strongest part of the lesson? Why did you think that? What were some challenges? Maybe some challenges of the lesson. You had whatever is happening during that day. Some adjustments. What could I do next time? So if I was going to teach this next time, what would I do? What didn't well, what could go better next time? And what were those steps? You got to give some steps of action to do. And then how will those adjustments impact the student's success? So if I do this, How does that improve students? So I incorporate maybe a guest lecture from the community, or I bring in a community-based project to make it more relevant. How does that impact the student success? Well, they're going to be more engaged. They're going to see how it connects to why I have to teach about this content. So that's really what this form is. Again, the pre, the observation, and the post all go to the observer. When that's all done, the observer then takes this reporting form, and that's the only thing that you submit in unless for the dossier. So it talks about this form. It says, did I have a pre-observation? Yes, this has happened then. Did I have an observation? Yes, it happened then. Doesn't tell what happened during the observation. Just says this is what then and happened. This is when it happened. This is how it happened. And then did I have a post meeting? Yes, this is this. And then as the faculty being observed, you just write a really brief. It's 500,000 words, super short, of the process. You can use quotes from the observation, but the whole process. You just talking about how this improved your journey. So really, as a faculty member, what did you learn through this process? What adjustments will you make to improve your teaching and learning to impact student success? Okay, so for example, the facilitator we talked about, the faculty wrote, I did not realize I didn't look to the right side of the room. And by the observation process, I was unaware, and now I've become self-aware, and I'm intentionally going to make sure I step to the left side of the room. I'll bring a clicker in so that I'm not behind the lectern. I'll go and make sure I engage the students on the left side of the classroom, and this whole process and how that became a reflective piece. Okay, so this helps you with that whole process of that reporting form. The reporting form is what goes in the dossier. That's what you submit. You don't need to submit the other part. That's more of a little bit more personal and confidential. All right. All right, so Peggy, let's go. I talked a lot. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm not like this guy. I don't talk all the time. I talked a lot. So let's take a moment to reflect on what we just went through. Okay, so Peggy, will you answer these, bring out these questions, everybody? Okay.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
So let's give us like a minute of silence and just kind of take a look at these questions and just pick a few that you can jot down some notes. So let's give you like a few minutes to process and just kind of, if you have pen and paper, great. Or you could pull up a Word document and type, or just type on your phone or whatever works. But let's give you like 3 minutes to think, and then we'll just go through these. Okay. All right. So give you a few minutes to kind of think. So you can either type in the chat or you can raise your hand. There's no wrong answer. But looking at the link to the slides, the link to the forms, and what Dr. Fleener just shared, what stands out about this 3-stage process? The pre, the during, the post. Like, what stands out to you about that? And ideally, you don't want it like really compressed. You want it spread out over time. But what are your thoughts? Okay, so Jessica says, the reflective piece resonates. It gives the person being observed a chance to articulate what they learned. Yeah, good. Yeah, this whole process is reflection. Supportive, Jennifer says supportive. Corey, complete coaching. I think it's coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You want to add anything, Beth?
No, it's just, I was looking at Jennifer's. It's very supportive and not judgmental.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We're here to support each other, to be, our goal is here to be help students be successful. And what can we do to help do that? As instructors, we help other people be successful by, offer them support and feedback and things like that. We're not judging them and their teaching style just because it's a little different than ours.
It honestly helped me to become better.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it goes with self-awareness. You don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know, you're not looking to the left side of the classroom until someone tells you that you don't know. And you're not understanding why half your class is giving you negative student evaluations because you don't know that they're not engaged because you weren't aware. And so that's what that is. So
Yeah,
I didn't know I was
absolutely.
talking. I'm
Oh, you're
sorry.
good.
That's okay. That's
You're
okay.
good.
Yeah.
Chiming in.
I'll-
Let's combine the second and third one. This is a tough one. You are a peer, and I think it helps when you say, "I'm not out to get you." This is part of the process, and that kind of thing. But when you give feedback, I usually frame it as a question. Like at the end, have you thought about? Or one
Have you
thing I noticed
considered?
is, have
Have
you
you
considered?
considered? Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
What are other ways that you can give feedback that you all have done? And maybe you've given feedback outside of a peer review to somebody, like your font's too tiny. Sometimes I'm direct. Beth knows this. Sometimes I'm just like, I just, speak my mind. But when you're doing a peer observation, they may be a little sensitive. I guess that's the right word. So, Beth, if you can think of any more supportive language.
Hmm. Well, that's
Um,
where that relationship piece comes in. It's very key. So that's why you establish that relationship before you observe, that you have that trust in that. So, I'm here to give you the best advice. I want you to be successful. I want to support you as a faculty or observe, and so, but you just reframe your way. I mean, there was a book and I gave it away to somebody and I don't want to go back,
Oh,
but
no.
it's basically a positive way, how to say negative things in a positive way. And so, because no one likes negative and really harsh feedback. No one likes it. None of us, and I don't know anybody in this room right now who's going to like that. So how do you say that in a way that's kind and gentle, in a way, but still constructive in the fact that, yeah, your font is a little too small. You can't use 12-point font on a PowerPoint slide. It's hard to see, it's too much, or something like that. So you be kind with that, and that's that relationship. And actually, have you considered? That's what I usually do when
Good
I'm
one.
even doing feedback on student papers. Have you considered this? How is this connecting to this? And let them think through that. You may not even know, why did you connect this and this? And when they tell you, they're like, oh, I never saw that. And if I never saw that, then you need to be clear in articulating that when you're teaching it as well, and things like that.
Yeah, that's really good.
And things like that. So, all right,
Yeah,
Peggy, what else you got?
yeah, those are just good things we recommend. And then how can you ensure your documentation is accurate? I think for some of you, the charting resonated. For me, I do coding. So I'm a qualitative researcher. So even though this isn't research, I can't get away from my training. So I'll put like a plus, or like if it's a strength, and then maybe like if I'm doing handwritten notes, like a check mark or a question mark for something to grow on. And then later I sort of sort those, and I make a bullet point list of strengths, and I make a bullet point list of things to think. What did I say? Things to consider, or that kind of thing. I don't call it challenges, or what is it? Wrong, or
Weakness,
yeah,
weaknesses.
weakness,
Yeah,
that whole thing.
yeah, yeah.
Right. Speaking of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now it's called growth area or suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
I just call it suggestions,
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of what it is. And I always say, take it with a grain of salt, because I'm just an observer, and that kind of thing. So anybody else have thoughts on that, or Beth?
No, I'm reading all the comments here.
Yeah, they're good.
People are reflecting on really what resonated. Have you considered, especially when you're
Opportunities.
doing an observation, and there's a couple things on there, maybe have you considered this? Because you can't grow with everything. So when I observe student teachers, I don't give them everything. It's just too much. So just a couple things for them to consider, and then once they got that, and then they can go on. Because if you give them everything, that's going to overwhelm them. But maybe have you considered two
Right.
things? I'm like, okay, I can work on that, and I can work on that. But if you give them 10 things, it's like, okay, I can't work on any of that. And so consider a couple options to focus on. So that was a good thing on that
Right.
one.
Yeah. And then Beth, you want to do the last two questions?
What is the best way to take notes and sketch diagrams if needed during observation? Okay, so what is the best way for you? Everyone has a different style and approach. Some people, maybe even bring like an iPad and they just sketch it, and then they share it as a digital document. Some people go old school and bring a notebook. Um, it's just what you're more comfortable with as the observer. Everyone has their own little style and approach of note-taking strategies. I have a digital notebook, but sometimes I revert back to the pad and paper. It depends on what I am and what I'm feeling on that. Does knowing the observer must be equal influence the process? It can. It just depends. Again, it goes back to what I talked about earlier, those relationships. If you have a relationship with someone outside of your department, it might be helpful. I know that sometimes it is helpful for someone to be observed outside of your department instead of in your department, because maybe these people are going to be part of the tenure promotion process in the committee, and you just don't want that in there, and you go outside your department and then you get some unbiased feedback per se on that one. It's just what you're comfortable with as being observed and stuff like that. But it can be nerve-wracking. I mean, when you're getting observed by someone of higher rank, even though they're peer faculty, it can be like, oh my gosh, this can determine whether I get promotion or, there's a little bit of angst, and that's why those relationship pieces are very good, and that trust is established. Taking notes and sketch diagrams. Yeah, it's just sometimes
I was going to add a couple things. I always sit in the back corner, and then something else we haven't covered. Sometimes people say, should the person being observed introduce you? And I would just ask them. Sometimes they don't. And so I always sit in the back corner, just I don't know. No one ever asks who I am. I always try to sit away from students, because if they do have an interactive activity, I don't want to have to explain who I am to a student, and say, oh, I'm not going to do the turn and talk with you or whatever. So, and then the other thing I forgot to mention is, if they have a handout, always ask for that, because I hate having to go look over a student's shoulder and to see what they're doing. And so, yeah, just if they can send it to you ahead of time to say, well, you have any handouts, if it's a face-to-face, because that can be a real problem when you don't know what they're doing.
And so Monica's question about, can you follow up? Absolutely. If you want to, I mean, I don't recommend more, than one. We're all busy. So, and one a semester is more than enough. But if you want them to come back, especially if you have a really good working relationship with them, if you want them to come back in the next semester and say, hey, can you come back to make sure to see if I'm doing it, and build that rapport with them? Absolutely. But you be mindful. The observer is equally busy, and like here in CERTL, we try not to assign more than 2 per, like me, I can't do more than 2 a semester. It's just because of the time commitment. So just be mindful, but yeah, have them come back. And then they get to know you and your teaching style and things like that. So feel free. Okay. Because remember, we have 2 processes. We have the formal one that goes in, and then we have an informal one, and you can have that as well. Yeah, so you can, Corey, yes, you can say I'm being observed, or this teaching is being observed, or you can have a student teacher. I have a student teacher coming in to observe this class, to learn about it, however you want to phrase it, and things like that. So yes, take the focus off the students and not you. All right, so when you complete all this, the reporting form, remember, it's a reflection process. It's the most important part, not the pre, the observation, and the post. It's that reporting form. It's the meaningful reflection. Okay. I had someone mention that I know here in our unit who was part of the promotion process, and they said it was so hard because some of the reporting forms have said so and so observed me and it was good. And I was like, that's not meaningful reflection. That doesn't reflect on how are you growing and your formative learning process and teaching learning. So it's a reflective piece. Remember, and again, we've talked about, they're all privates. It's all private. So only you and the observer know what's going on. You can quote. If the faculty, observer, someone did something and you want to add that to your reflection, quote on that. You can put that in there. It goes in, if you're faculty, it goes in your digital measures profile, whether activity was a 3rd year promotion dossier, it goes in there, just a report. And then the informal one can also go in as a digital measures profile if you want to, though it's not required. But again, check your department if you're an APT faculty. If you're a staff or a grad student in this training right now, I know for my grad students, if you're in here, you'll have to do a 3-2-1, and that gets submitted into your teaching certificate workshop for level 2 of the program. And so, but that's what's going on with that one. So that's how you submit that in there as well. All right, where are we? All right, so to summarize, pre-observation, all courses, whether face-to-face, hybrid, online, make sure you include the syllabus. For online, make sure you add the peer observer as the shadow instructor, but make sure you take them out when they're done. Don't let them sit there for a week because they're going to get all the announcements and they're not, just whatever time you have. Course observation, make sure you review it with the faculty member, whoever, what you're observing. Make sure all the forms of observations are shared, like the running notes, the diagram, any forms that you complete. It's all shared with them. It is theirs to keep, and that part. And then for the post-observation, regardless of modalities, make sure everything is signed, applicable, make sure there's that meaningful reflection part on there about some strength and growth. You listen to them. And then the big one is the reporting form. Make sure it is reflective and meaningful. The signatures are included. And then that's what gets submitted in for the dossier. All of these forms are available on our website, Faculty Affairs or Successes website. There's the Word documents and there are PDF fillable. So whatever choice that you need or more comfortable with that process. All right. So Peggy, we're back to the red box again. Let's close this out.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
We'll just pick one or two of these.
Okay.
Go ahead and pick one question to respond to in the chat. Just what stood out about ideas across the whole training. How does the HOPS policy emphasis on student learning and teaching effectiveness align with what you know about best practices in teaching and observation, or what are your goals for this process? Like you could even do a practice observation if you want to, not required. Do an observation or do an actual observation. Let your department chair know. I think that's the most important thing, is letting your department chair know that you are now certified in this and that you have access to resources. You might even share these 2 links with your entire department so that they can find them, especially for new faculty. Let new faculty know you're a trained peer reviewer. Know who the other trained peer reviewers are in your unit. So you can talk and just say what works for you, that kind of thing. And again, those are listed on our website. Review the resources. It can be something simple like, I'm just going to dig into the webpage. You can email us, either of us. And yeah, so let's see. Okay. So Bethany, if you want to chime in, any comments on the comments? I'm going to stop sharing just for a second because I want to put a few more resources in the chat.
Okay,
but
so
we're still here. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jennifer asked, I love how organized this is, and this is best practices. If you are a tenure track faculty or you're wanting to observe, you don't actually need to select a trained person like we are doing right now. Okay, HOPS doesn't say that, but because we want best practices, we highly suggest getting a certified peer observation person because they have gone through this comprehensive training and they know what to look for versus someone, hey, come down and observe me, and they've never been training and they don't know what to look for. And they're giving more judgment or biases type of observation instead of the best practices type of observation part. Yeah, and do an observation. And when I used to work with new faculty, if you're a little nervous about that, do an informal one first. Get that little bugs out of the way, work it all out, get all this out of your system, and then before you do the formal one that has to go up for your tenure promotion dossier. So helps you get a little bit of the nerves open. I guess my experience in public education, again, I was a public ed teacher for 10 years. I was a special ed teacher of record. And so because of that, I had students and administrators, everybody in and out of my room. Was like Grand Central Station all the time. So I was not necessarily uncomfortable with people in and out of my room all the time. But it can be a little uncomfortable for people who haven't. So that's where that relationship comes in, and you develop that relationship so they are comfortable and teaching in that space. Okay. So yeah, I'm looking at that.
I have one. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm looking at the slides. Oh, thanks, Peggy, for adding the slides. Yeah.
Okay. I have one resource. It's not directly connected, but it goes back to what is excellent teaching. And Beth, if you want to comment, it's the little orange book. I don't know if anybody's read it. You may even have it in print. It's readable. It's short. If anybody plays golf, I heard that it was modeled on like golf tips. This is teaching tips in the same way that people share golf tips. And so it's readable, it's short, it's digestible. You can read it. You might even refer to it, to the person you're observing. Now, some people overanalyze, overthink everything. So if they think you're making a comment about their teaching, maybe don't do it. But if you know they like to read and that kind of thing, this little book is free online, not the print version, and I think it just has good information. But any thoughts, Beth?
No, that's actually a really good book. Yeah, I actually have the second edition too. And
Oh, cool.
so, yeah, but those are just little strategies and help you to be a better observer or a better instructor, depending on which way you are on that
Kind of
choice.
fun. Yeah.
All right, so
I think that's it.
I think they're done. All right, so let's go to I don't know if you can share the last of it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
All
let me
right.
pull it up. It was what the certificate looks like.
Yes, slide 29.
Yeah, give me a second.
So thanks for hanging out, you guys, for this rainy afternoon. And all right, so here's what this looks like. So if you're a faculty, you will get this certification here from Nikisha in the email in the next coming, whenever it comes out. You'll get this, and you can put this certification in your dossier and things like that. Your name then will appear on the list that we have in our CERTL on our website for this type of training. So you could get reached out. Someone may reach out to you and say, hey, can you come observe me? I saw that they may have that. If you're a staff or grad student in this program, you will take this information from the workshop and add it to part of what you need to do for your requirements of your program that's asked you to do that. You will not get a certificate because that's only for faculty in regards to tenure and promotion. And the last slide, Peggy, you have contact. If you're just like, I need more help, I have more questions, I need some more resources, things like that, you can reach out to us. Here's our email, here's our website. We have tons of resources on the website. So go there, there's tons of stuff. We have amazing students this semester who's cleaning, and it's so much easier to find stuff. So that's great. And then here's the link to how to get all the forms. Again, it's all that there. So thank you, everyone. I hope you understand the peer observation process a little bit clearer, and your role as an observer or observee, depending on what role you're going to.
I have one final thought too. Yeah.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So just one last plug. We do have our CERTL website, but we have one more, Pedagogy Next, and we're always looking for writers. So a lot of you had great reflections and thoughts. So if you want to write about anything about teaching, we welcome blog posts 200 to 1,000 words, and let us know. Karen Magruder just wrote a good one from social work, so let us know, and we're always open to authors.
Well, and if you observe something that's absolutely amazing and you want to highlight that faculty member, have them reach out to us. I mean, if you saw something that is absolutely amazing in a class, and you're like, oh wow,
that's just someone.
Oh, know someone who did something. I mean, what the criminal they just did that cold case one. That was amazing. Let's highlight that faculty who did something amazing. And so if you see something that's just outstanding, let's highlight them and showcase their work. And so. All right. We'll hang out here a few more minutes. If anybody has any questions, if not, okay, stay safe, stay warm this weekend. Watch for the weather, watch for any news for us. I don't know anything about what's going on here at UTA, but watch for all that. And again, reach out to us if you have any questions. We are really here to help you. We're here to help you. So,
stay warm.
Stay safe. All right. We'll just hang out here a second.
Bye, I have a question. Yes. So Peggy, I was at the faculty voices session this past Wednesday, and you mentioned the Pedagogy Next.
Yes.
Like a blog or some kind of writing entry. So I went to the site